We are likely not who we think we are. It is easy to get lost in the quagmire deciphering black ops projects from strange craft that could be considered from somewhere beyond our current modern society. It is a debate that will always go unanswered. We will never know all the government's military secrets. But the past has secrets we can all help piece together, beyond at least some of the controlling grasp of the powers that be. These are the oldest known examples of carvings and paintings done by humans, and they were found in South Africa. They're estimated to be between 120,000 and 70,000 years old. Now, around this time, humans were seemingly experimenting with very simple rock paintings and bone carvings, possibly for ceremonial purposes. But during that 50,000 years, it seemed little to have changed with the artistic expressions of emerging cultures. After the slow march of hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, ancestral humans were finally starting to come out of their shell. But then the world practically ended. Lue Elizondo, the man who ran AATIP, a UAP program meant to be cover for the real UAP program at the Pentagon, ASAP, which was part of a legacy program going back decades. Well, Lue Elizondo, one of the most public and knowledgeable figures in the ongoing disclosure movement, speaks about a specific time, about 70,000 years ago, and that's when he says something significant happened to humans, and that changed the course of our history, and there seems to be a lot of evidence. For millions of years, we were a middle-of-the-pack developing species. We ate a lot of things, but a lot of things ate us. We did not sit atop the food chain. But then all of a sudden a hard turn happened, and humans leapt to the top of nature's food pile as the dominant species on land against incredible odds. We could suddenly begin to kill, catch, and conquer any living creature as our way of life grew in sophistication, and it did so in ways that had been stagnant and slow for hundreds of thousands of years. So where is the evidence? Well, this is where that rabbit hole might not have rabbits at the bottom. About 74,000 years ago was one of the largest explosions on the face of the Earth. The youngest Toba eruption in Sumatra, Indonesia, was a cataclysmic event unleashing the largest explosion in 25 million years, classified as a super eruption, and it devastated the planet beyond anything imaginable, leaving this collapsed caldera, Lake Toba, as a constant reminder. The cooling of the Earth triggered a volcanic winter that immediately resulted, and it lasted anywhere from a decade to 1,000 years. Temperatures plunged 15 degrees in just the first couple of years after the event, wiping whole ecosystems from existence on a planetary scale. As for humans, well, we nearly didn't make it at all. As a species, Homo sapiens sapiens were almost entirely wiped out, just as nearly all other bipedal hominid competitors were as well. So why did this event seemingly help propel, not unravel, humanity's progress on an evolutionary scale? After the volcanic eruptions, it is thought the devastation was so widespread it left up to a maximum of 10,000 breeding pairs of humans left, resulting in a theory of a so-called genetic bottleneck in the wake of the Toba catastrophe. It meant that nearly all modern humans descend from only this small pocket of people, not the vast ancestral history of the previous millions of years or more. But the genetic bottleneck that resulted, leaving humans on the brink of total collapse, seemingly galvanized people on an accelerated evolutionary path. One of the confounding pieces of archaeological evidence are the fragments of jewelry said to belong to the Denisovans, a race of hominids different from us. Now, the jewelry was created with such precision it would require machine tooling to replicate. It was said to have been created about 50,000 years ago, but it could have been older. The drill hole in this necklace was created with a continuous high-speed drill. When examined under a microscope, the drilling marks are clean and continuous, meaning a hand drill with a lower RPM and inconsistent speed would leave telltale marks, just as a high-powered drill would, as it did in this case. So where did the technology and know-how originate? 20,000 years earlier or less, humans were still only scratching lines on bones and had been doing so for tens of thousands of years prior, even sometimes using seashells as ornaments. But where did this technological leap come from? Author Graham Hancock's groundbreaking Netflix series is ripping the covers off the nonsensical beliefs of our Western-centric approach to history. He almost assuredly is correct that there is a lot of evidence of a forgotten, semi-advanced civilization that predates the post-Younger Dryas event, otherwise known as the Last Ice Age, meaning megalithic sites with precise astrological alignments to the stars, particularly ones 25,000 years ago, supports his theory, like Serpent Mound in Ohio. Interestingly, these Aboriginal carvings in Australia use a similar depiction of an open-mouthed snake, or these ancient dolmens in the Russian Caucasus region that has no known origin and almost nothing is known about them. Who built them, how old they are, the civilization and cultures attached to them, how they drilled through the rock, how they lifted the stones. At least 3,000 have been discovered in the Caucasus region, one of the most remote places on Earth. How were they constructed, and by whom? Not to mention indigenous cultures from Wyoming to West Africa who say their knowledge of their own history can go back often tens of thousands of years or more. And this is where the CIA comes into the picture. Former CIA insider John Ramirez, who enjoyed a 25-year career and has been unapologetic in his statements that humans are likely hybrids, and likely the product of engineering from an outside group. He says this was a discovery made after the crash at Roswell. It speculated alien bodies, live and dead, allegedly retrieved from the Roswell crash and others, shows that we share common DNA and are the product of outside engineering. If true, it supports the idea that humans had our DNA modified after the Toba event about 70,000 years ago, and that allowed for an accelerated evolutionary growth of humans despite us nearly being obliterated. That growth allowed us to dominate the entire land-based ecosystem around us and other competing hominids. But Ramirez says there's more. John Ramirez says not only are humans likely the product of engineering, but some people may be more hybrid than others, suggesting some people may or may not be consciously aware that they may be part of a special group of people who could possibly help direct the wind that has blown in our sails, so to speak. Ramirez says the truth about our DNA is classified. Although we can all get our DNA sequenced, if the knowledge about what to look for is classified, then the CRISPR gene editing machine can't identify what it doesn't know to look for. So where is the evidence? Stanford University is where the U.S. government sent psychic Uri Geller to begin his testing with members from the U.S. government's intelligence apparatus into his profound abilities and others like him. And they did so under folks like Dr. Kit Green and Dr. Hal Puthoff. Fast forward to today, and Dr. Gary Nolan, an acclaimed Stanford academic, is one of the U.S. government's go-to people for helping unravel the impact of things like UFO abductions and encounters on the brain. What was discovered is that people who are targeted for abduction, or those with seemingly savant qualities, apparently have something akin to a second brain around their basal ganglia at the base of their brain, and it can do things like higher processing and higher functioning. It's unclear if this mass is what allows for communications with entities across the electromagnetic spectrum, like spirits or UFOs. However, Nolan found that people who had this condition, well, it was also a trait that was shared amongst their family members. And even more interesting, people who had this, well, they typically only pair bonded or mated with other people with the same condition. And that suggested to Nolan that these people are part of a select special interbreeding group, or that there is a biological attraction that draws these like individuals together. It is said to impact about 1 in 200. So, if these anomalies in people's brains are somehow calling cards of the higher levels of hybridizations that some humans experience, is this why they are selected for things like abductions? If humans are engineered, as John Ramirez says, it makes sense it might have happened around 70,000 years ago, when we were almost entirely wiped out, leaving just small isolated pockets of genetic pools around the world to tinker with, which backs up what Lue Elizondo is suggesting, supported by evidence of advanced tooling and engineering emerging quickly after the Toba event. Humans made fast work of other competing hominids like Neanderthals in places like Europe, and it appears they began erecting ancient megalithic structures that likely predate the last ice age, and they were made with precise astrological knowledge. With remnants of this past era supported by widespread tales of global floods and the restarting of civilization by the same bearded figures with handbags and pine cones that we can see carved all over the world. But there's even more to this. Tom DeLonge, singer with Blink-182 and co-founder to the Stars Academy with people like Dr. Hal Puthoff, has been very vocal about his theory that there may be a black pyramid buried in Alaska, and it's emitting a frequency that could be interrupting or interfering with our conscious minds. He and others have suggested that our brains, either through forgotten knowledge, genetic manipulation, or frequency interference, are not fully attuned to the entire world around us, and that includes growing rumbles we live alongside a shadow biosphere here on Earth, and by extension, the multitude of intelligent entities across the electromagnetic spectrum that our eyes can't see, but our brains might be able to do it for us. If we were the product of engineering, it may support the theory that the Alaskan Pyramid and other similar structures buried around the world are emitting frequencies that either enhance or scramble our brain's natural signals. If that is the case, perhaps something like the pyramid was built to emit a frequency to draw early humans over the Siberian land bridge during the last ice age to help repopulate the American continents. It also lends weight to the idea that things like the tic-tac-shaped UAPs that have seemingly no occupants, no known origins, destination, purpose, function, might be a sentient artificial intelligence that monitors humans, an idea that William Shatner proposed to me as well, and they've been doing so since the hybridization of humans began. So I asked the world's most powerful psychic, Uri Geller, what he saw in Alaska, and does it align with Tom DeLonge's statements? Well, Geller isn't sure it's a malevolent signal, but he thinks in fact there could be something in Alaska. There might be some truth to what Tom DeLonge is saying. He's just not sure what it is or why it's there. And there's still even more to come. Stay tuned for part 2. I'm Sean. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I've got great new material coming all the time. Stay tuned. Another great video is coming up next.